Hello, this is Ollie from 99040N, and I'm here to make a video on introducing people to VEX programming as beginners. And if you're already experienced, you can skip this video if you want, although there might be some things you might still find helpful. So, my experience as a coder, I started the summer of last season, or high stakes, and I knew maybe a little bit of Python, a little bit of C++, but I didn't have any experience coding robots or anything for VEX. And I ended with really strong code performance. I got Thank Award at Haunted. We won states. We did really consistent Worlds Auton. And if you look at our Spirit Division, if you look at the AP, autonomous points, there's like Worlds Finalist #1, Division Finalist #2, and then there's us. So I'm just going to walk you through some practices that helped me go from just starting to where I am now. And of course, take it that I'm still learning. I'm gonna rewrite all my code for next year. That you can take whatever I say with a grain of salt. Essentially, I'm sure that a lot of people know better. Like if you've seen Echo's code explanation, theirs is just insane. So coding takes a lot of problem solving, where you just have to be the type of person that really likes challenges and just approaching things from new angles and trying out new things. If you want to just have fun as a programmer, where I love problem solving, so I have a lot of fun programming, but I know there's a lot of people out there that don't exactly like all the problems and issues that pop up, and it just doesn't work for them. So let's start off with the softwares to use. There's VEX Code Pro and there's Visual Studio. So VEX Code Pro is it looks like this. I don't want to open it because it always crashes on my computer, but it's made by VEX, and it's pretty bare bones, but it's pretty simple. I wouldn't recommend it though because it guzzles a lot of battery. It's you can't use any extensions on it. You're pretty limited on your organization, and it doesn't receive any updates. They have moved VEX has moved to Visual Studio with an extension that they use. And on Visual Studio, this is what Visual Studio looks like. You can change it however you want. You can add a bunch of different organization things. There's a bunch of extensions you can have. So the VEX has their own extension that you can download, and it has a different syntax for writing things, getting things done than Prose, which is used by a lot of people as well for VEX, made by Purdue SIGBOTs. And the VEX extension is really simple. It's great for beginners, and it's still as functional as Prose. While Prose has more library support, which is lemlib for ODOM, robodash for Auton selector, which I use, a lot of quality of life improvements. And although it is more complicated and a lot more random errors pop up. For example, I'm not running the VEX extension now, so there's a bunch of errors, but this is my early season code. And this is what it would look like when I'm making Autons. On my Worlds bot code where I use Prose, when you move have move functions, there's this thing with Prose called clanged, where it'll say the variable that you're plugging into. So x is -20, y is -38, stuff like that. Just quality of life improvements. And these buttons are also help out a lot, which VEX the VEX extension doesn't have. And essentially it's up to you. Now, I know a lot of people where they start with the VEX extension and then they move to Prose afterwards, and I think that's a good plan if you want to start simple. But if you want to start off with your feet running, you don't want to have to switch halfway through the season, then you could start with Prose. And I'd say for coding, the optimal workflow is, well, at least don't write a bunch of code without testing it. Which means this could be anything from just don't write your entire Auton without testing it, because if I've tried that and then the start doesn't work and then that doesn't work, and you have to just rewrite all of it with testing. But especially with Prose, your code will crash a lot if you don't have it tested. Where what I do is I write one thing and I test it, and if it doesn't work, I know it's that one thing. So you just essentially want to isolate the things that you're adding to make sure that they work before you add new things. And how I ended up using this was I took our Worlds bot home for a weekend, and I just had it all to just test the code things I'm trying out instead of writing all the code and then testing it at school where we have the robot. And some common errors that you'll run into and some issues that are like not even your fault. So one of the common errors I see all the time, this is pretty basic, but having multiple like while true statements. So here, this is my main.cpp file, just like the main file, and this is where like the main thread is. So essentially, in these are a bunch of functions here, but in here, while true means that after we like start like initializing and setting up the octons and setting up the ring sort and whatever, we just cycle through here, which is we like run our like ring sort and hook on gem and whatever, and we also print on the brain screen and we do the driver controls. But let's say if I wanted to do something after here, I wanted to move the Lady Brown down afterwards, or if I want it where I click a button, something happens, it's never gonna get to this because I have a while true before it. And all the time I have like people I know being like, oh, why is my code not working? I'm clicking a button and it's not doing anything. It's because you have a while true before it. And this is just like really basic issue that I also ran into when I started coding. Okay, and for the issues that come up that's like not even your fault. So if you're using VEX code or like with the VEX extension, when essentially you write the code and you build, that means the button's not here because I'm not writing the extension, but when you build, it pretty much translates your words into like your code into the language that the computer understands, and it'll put that in this build folder here, over here. And it's pretty specific, but if you go to the settings, if you change the name of the code or the slot it's on, it will not, you have to delete everything in this build folder here for the new updated code that you wrote to go to the robot. It's pretty weird, but I'm pretty sure how it works is if you see all of these different, like blue wind point, high to red wind point, whatever, these are all my different names of my code. And if you don't delete just everything in this build folder when you change the name of the port, then it will not upload your correctly named file to the robot. That's something I ran into like my first competition. It was really frustrating because like the code wouldn't like change when I uploaded it. So hopefully that prevents any like problems for y'all. And now for pros, when you make a new project, a lot of time it's right here, but when people say they have issues making this, or it says like we have an error, whatever, you have to click reset conductor, and then you click yes, and then after that runs, you should be able to create a project. It's pretty random. I had to like Google that to figure out how it works. And then for pros specifically, you have a lot of errors when you're just trying to upload code. It says like just random stuff. When you click upload and your code build's fine, there's no errors in it. Just unplugging and replugging your download cable fixes it. This happened to me a lot when I started using pros, but now, like after months of using it, it doesn't happen anymore. It's kind of weird, and I have a friend who has the same problem. It's pretty weird, but essentially, if your code's fine and you just can't upload for some reason, unplug everything, plug everything back in, including like the battery or maybe even the motor ports of your robot. And generally, if your project still builds while you have errors, then the errors are more like suggestions, which could be like you redefined a variable for no reason, or if you make a like a header file, it two random errors will pop up for no reason and they won't do anything. They don't mean anything, but they'll just stay there for a while, which is just kind of random, but it doesn't mean anything. So if you have errors when you're building, which is like your code isn't working, make sure to, biggest thing is isolate the error. So just Control Z, or you can even comment out lines until it works, and then you can add lines back until it stops working. And then every once in a while, it's good to just clean your project. Now, the thing I like about pros is there's just a clean button right here. So if I change the name or the port or anything like that, I can ensure we're good by just clicking clean, and it's delete all the old build files. And also, okay, we can ask AI for help. We got a whole thing about AI. So it's a great tool for learning, but if all you do is just ask AI to make your whole code, it's gonna hurt you, because in interviews you're not gonna know what you're talking about. And if you've like something break at a comp and AI wrote it and you don't know how to fix it and you rely on it, then you're kind of cooked. So it's best if you ask AI just to, like, I used it to teach me how to do PID, and I made my own PID. And it's best to see how it solves a problem that you're facing and then implement it or learn from how it does it, but write your code yourself essentially. And there's like GitHub AI or whatever that you can use. There's ChatGPT. They're all helpful. Just make sure that you're trying to learn. And of course, especially when you're really starting, you're unfamiliar with everything. You kind of fake it till you make it, where you see how it does something, try it yourself if it works, and enough of like after a while of just writing things, it'll kind of catch on to you. But if you just solely rely on what they give you, it won't work. Okay, so for ODOM libraries, there's a couple specific things. So for the VEX extension, I use Taillib. Just in general for ODOM libraries, keep in mind that if you have timeouts where essentially you tell the robot to move somewhere, and if it runs into something, doesn't get there by a certain time, then that you need a timeout where it says like this movement has a maximum of 2 seconds, and then it'll move to the next thing. The one that I use Taillib, and when I use the VEX extension, it didn't have that, or I didn't, at least there was like a weird workaround to get it to work. But that kind of like messed up a lot of autons, because if the robot runs into something, then it's cooked. That's just something to keep in mind. And then for Lemon Pros, when you are downloading it, there's like a whole setup thing. It's really helpful. But I know, it's kind of goofy, but it says like, okay, copy and paste this into your integrated terminal or whatever. When you do that, don't do that. This is just like this part here and this part here after the hashtag is just a comments. And I know it makes sense, but like it's pretty easy to look over and be like, why is it not working for me? Okay, so and then code syncing and backup software. So you need somewhere to upload your code to keep track of it, or even if there's like multiple programmers on your team, it's helpful for having this. Or if you like accidentally break your code, you want to be able to go back to an older version. So just having the file on your computer is not enough. So the simplest solution, what I started with, was Google Drive. Although it's limited because it's pretty hard to go back to previous versions, and it's not that well made for code. But what you do is you get the app on your computer, and then you like sync the files, and anyone else who like downloads the Google Drive app and opens that same file, it'll be synced to them. But GitHub is the best. It's like the industry standard pretty much. And although I don't really have that much experience with it, but this is like my GitHub here. Okay, so here I don't really know I'm not really good at naming my commits or whatever, but this essentially shows all the changes I've made. It's very helpful. There's like source control and stuff. I can always go back to a previous version. And actually, before my like score in states, or score showdown signature event in my states for Alabama, my code just like crashed because I added a bunch of changes. So I was able to go back to a previous version because I used GitHub. And also it's great for interviews. One thing I forgot is check the API website. So if you just search up Pros API or VEX API, you can find them on Google. This will essentially tell you all of the functions you need. So in C++, if I want to move a motor, it says all the different things I can use. It gives examples. This is actually like way better than the one for Pros in my opinion. But it's really well documented. If you're just not familiar with how to do stuff, this is really, really great for figuring things out. And you can search and all of those things. And for the same thing goes for the Pros one, although it looks a little bit more complicated. Okay, and another thing is for Pros, when you're making a change, so this doesn't happen for when you use the VEX extension, but only for Pros, is let's say I added a new line to my code. I added this one. Before, you see this dot right here, the white dot? Before I didn't have it. That means my code is saved, and if I build, it's gonna build this version of the code. But when I add something, I add this, there's this blue dot. If I want like whatever I'm building to include what I added, this means it's unsafe pretty much. I have to Command S or Control S and save it. Or I guess you could see, I don't know, file save. They went away now, and I can build it, and it'll include the code I added. Okay. And thank you for watching this. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. And I'll be making some other videos talking about like my organization, my auton, stuff like that. Thank you.